Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be exploring the Avalanche, also known as AVAX, crypto ecosystem, as there is now major partnerships and deployment of real capabilities and technologies, including real-world assets and an expansion of the DeFi ecosystem, and stablecoins all being hosted on the Avalanche blockchain. And we have not really covered Avalanche too deeply in this cycle. But as you guys can see from the price chart, we have not even reached all-time record highs of over $100. Now, maybe we won't. There's been more dilution as time goes on, as more coins get released from, previous cycles. You have to understand, a lot of these cryptos started in the 2020-2021 cycle. And so a lot of those pumps were basically because of low float, low unlock from investor and early developer coins. But in today's video, we're going to be exploring some of the metrics of this ecosystem, as well as major partnerships and collaborations that are now deploying and utilizing the Avalanche blockchain. This is the Cryptoviser podcast. We talk about crypto, blockchain, and investing every single day of the year since 2018. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Give this video an absolutely free thumbs up, because thumbs up are free. Avalanche is not free. And sometimes we do deep dives like we're doing today into individual cryptos. And sometimes we talk about the macroeconomic environment to understand where to invest, how to invest, when to invest, and what are the best investments out there. Without further ado, let's get into it. Don't forget to give the video a free thumbs up. And we're going to be starting right here. In a new exclusive, Anthony Scaramucci's Skybridge Capital is now going to be tokenizing $300 million on the Avalanche network. So let's understand a little bit more about this. We know Anthony Scaramucci is a long-term Bitcoin and crypto advocate, and now his firm of Skybridge Capital, they said that they're going to be planning to hold around $300 million from two funds in the form of tokenized assets. And this is the breakthrough that we're seeing with what is called RWA, or real-world assets, that are now being tokenized and then being deployed or traded on chain. Skybridge move comes amid a wave of enthusiasm for what the crypto industry calls tokenization. This process entails creating a digital token version of real-world assets like treasury bills, which can easily be traded on a blockchain in the same way that Bitcoin or stablecoins are. We also, he said, I'm basically seeing 2026 to 2027 as the age of real-world tokenization, according to Skybridge Capital's executive, Anthony Scaramucci. Skybridge plans to deploy its tokenized funds on Avalanche, a blockchain that boasts about $2 billion in assets on their network, according to DeFi Llama. Now, we're going to go over to DeFi Llama in just a minute. The amount of money that Skybridge will deploy is about 10% of the firm's assets under management. Again, we're seeing slow moves into the tokenization space. They want to make sure that it works. They want to make sure there's no friction. They want to make sure there's no issues. And most importantly, they want to make sure it is safe. So now when we go over to DeFi Llama, which is the main aggregate website for decentralized finance ecosystem metrics across pretty much all the major blockchains in the world, you can now see that Avalanche is now a top 10 crypto or blockchain network when it comes to total DeFi TVL, or total value locked. This is the amount of actual crypto in dollar amount that is locked on the individual chain. Now, in just a minute, we're going to go in and see how much AVAX, how much of the total supply of Avalanche is locked in DeFi. But before we go there, let's kind of understand where Avalanche stands when it comes to some of these metrics. And by the way, don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. And if you like this kind of content, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. You can also become a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month by clicking the join or subscribe plus button down below. So as you guys can see here, Avalanche is the number 10 ecosystem in DeFi in terms of total value locked. In terms of number of protocols that are linked or live on the network, it has a total of 530, which is very similar to many of the Ethereum layer 2s or Ethereum adjacent chains. Now, personally, I consider Avalanche an Ethereum adjacent chain. It does many of the same things, has many of the same capabilities, many of the same kind of use cases as Ethereum. So therefore, it would be considered an Ethereum adjacent chain. Polygon, on the other hand, is an Ethereum layer 2. It could also be considered an Ethereum adjacent chain because it has many of the same features. But Avalanche is in this category, along with Arbitrum, Base, although we don't really consider Base one of those because it doesn't really have a coin or a value attached to it, at least just yet. Solana is also an Ethereum adjacent chain. And so when we look at the Ethereum adjacent chains compared to Avalanche, you can clearly see that Avalanche has more protocols built on top of it. I think a lot of this has to do with just the interoperability piece that Avalanche kind of launched with. We've been seeing and never really heard about any friction for cross-chain compatibility with Avalanche, as we hear with many chains, like Solana has some of those issues, Cardano definitely has a lot of those issues with cross-chain interoperability. And so 530 individual protocols that are linked or live on Avalanche is really good. And you can clearly see it's more than Solana. It's very in line with Polygon, and it's more than many of the other chains out here. Outside of the top 10 especially. And some of these chains say that they're the number one DeFi chain in the world, they're going to be the number one used chain in the world, and nothing is built on it. Like, not figuratively, like quite literally nothing is built on top of it. Anyway, number of active addresses is very low compared to many of these other Ethereum adjacent or top 10 chains. You can see Solana has about 3 million active addresses. This is, I think, based on 24 hours. So not a lot of usage on the chain compared to some of these other ones. I think that a lot of that has to do with just the integrations, right? Ethereum is integrated in many different ecosystems, many different use cases, many different smart contracts. There's a lot of activity on the chain, AKA a lot of active addresses. Same thing with Solana, Binance. I didn't even know Bitcoin is here in DeFi, but okay. Tron, not really sure too much about. Base, obviously, Base is very widely used, very low fees, very little friction, very high interoperability. So 1 million active addresses, that's over 20 times the number of active addresses on Avalanche. But this whole video is about the expansion of the Avalanche ecosystem. And therefore, in my view, we're still at the early stages. Now, I believe that I have some AVAX in my portfolio, probably a very small amount, because I don't even remember that I have it or if I have it. But this is kind of one of those coins that there were so many Ethereum adjacent chains, it's really kind of hard to tell, like which one is going to work, which one is going to do well, which one is not going to go down from a price perspective based on dilution, like we saw with Arbitrum, right? Arbitrum, the price went from, I think it was like $1, $2, $3 down to 50, 40 cents. And a lot of that was because of the dilution and the unlocks from early investors who get their coins after a certain vesting period. Once that kind of stops, then you start to see the acceleration in the usage and in more people interested in actually buying the coin because they're not going to be diluted, or at least not as much. And we've covered that in previous videos on this channel. Now, when it comes to Avalanche, like I said, this is very, very low active addresses, but the only way to go after low is up, right? And so hopefully we're going to see this number increase. And this is definitely a metric that we're going to have to keep a very close eye on, because it is abysmal in terms of compared to other Ethereum adjacent or layer 2 chains. It's slightly above Cardano in usage in active addresses, and that's probably not that great. But here's the deal, like, this is in a 24-hour period, so maybe it's just the day that I'm recording this or the day before that there was just low usage. So that's maybe not a metric to monitor that closely. But when we take a deeper look into Avalanche and see what is actually locked in AVAX, this shows us the history of DeFi locked in Avalanche. Now, this is showing us dollar terms, but because the price has changed through the course of time, and as I showed you the price activity from inception of Avalanche, major price moved to $123, which is basically 6 times where we're at today, at the all-time record high. Now, what I like to do is I like to change this. I don't know if you guys can see it on the screen, but Right over here on the top right, you can see that right now the graph is in US dollars. I'm going to change it to Avalanche because that is really the indicator. I want to see how much AVAX is in DeFi, not how much dollars are in DeFi, because this shows us the actual activity of the network. And you can clearly see there's less than there was at the top of the previous market, or in the bear market 2021 to 2022. But if we just zoom in from the bottom here, which occurred in the end of 2023, we've gone straight up. We went from 21 million Avalanche coins in DeFi to where we are today at about 75 to 85 million. So we went from, again, 20 million to 80 million. That's a 4x or 400% increase in total Avalanche coins that are locked in DeFi. And this is a good indicator, because this means that people are actually taking their money and putting it into DeFi to interact and utilize some of these ecosystems. And I would imagine this number is going to continue to grow as we see companies like Anthony Scaramucci's Skybridge Capital tokenizing crypto on the blockchain. And this brings us to another crazy announcement that I was quite surprised to hear. But Avalanche posted this saying, why did Toyota Blockchain Lab prove its prototype for vehicle finance and mobility on Avalanche? Every other EVM or Ethereum virtual machine chain equaled one layer one. Avalanche has infinite layer ones. Whoa. So Toyota is using Avalanche. Well, yeah, they are. This is from August of 2025 on the Toyota Blockchain Labs website. Now, I just wanted to make sure that Toyota Blockchain Labs is really connected to Toyota, and it is. On Toyota's global website, you can see from 2020, actually, at the market bottom, when they shut down the global economy, they actually said Toyota Blockchain Lab is accelerating blockchain technology initiatives and external collaboration. And they said Toyota Motor Company and Toyota Financial Services launched a cross-group virtual organization called Toyota Blockchain Lab in April of 2019, which moved forward with initiatives for using blockchain technology, including to date verifying the usefulness of the technology through demonstration trials and global collaboration with group companies. So they've been doing this since 2019, testing blockchain technology, and now they're using Avalanche. So in this article from Toyota Blockchain Lab, they talk about orchestrating trust in mobility ecosystems. They said, we are exploring a new blockchain layer to orchestrate trust and unlock mobility's value. So we know what blockchain is, we know what real world assets are, and they're saying real world assets, especially in mobility, it can abstract away from the local boundaries created by regulations, institutional frameworks, and commercial practices. Mobility, meaning like, what do? Cars, right? You get around. Mobility is not merely a physical object. It's a socio-systemic entity sustained by a web of relationships and procedures among multiple stakeholders: registration, insurance, taxation, maintenance, auditing, and more. Last year, Toyota Blockchain Lab said they proposed the new concept of mobility-oriented account, or MOA, to capture this structure from the vantage point of the user mobility relationship. That effort sought to define mobility as an abstract account, but it also revealed a limitation. The concept could not fully represent the inherently multi-layered, multi-stakeholder relationship of mobility. And so they talk a little bit more about this, yada, yada, got it. Okay, these are all the issues. We're not going to go through all of this because it will take quite a long time. But that brings us to the bridges that they are actually building. And before we go there, I just want to see where the Avalanche part is. Okay, we're very close. We're very close. So basically, actually, no, we're not very close. Look at how much more we have. This is a very long paper. But effectively, they talk about bundling trust in a bridge. You can see technical trust, institutional trust, and economic trust go into verifiable chains on the actual car, right? Verified manufacturing data, sensor integrity, software and firmware validation, boom, on chain into the car. Institutional trust, like who owns it, the registration, tax and insurance compliance, boom, also. And economic trust, proof of usage, revenue generation, maintenance history, boom. And we already have kind of some of these, but they're all decent, like they're all in their own areas, right? The bank deals with this, DMV deals with this, The manufacturer deals with this. The mechanics deal with this. Carfax deals with this. There's a lot of different. There's a lot of friction and a lot of different things to come together to get the full picture of the vehicle, right, or the mobility. Then they talk about igniting the value cycle. Got it. Here's capital finance, utility access, trust and assets, all bringing it into one. Again, we're not going to go into deep detail about this. And they talk about connecting the ecosystems, right? Interoperability, connectivity, validating info from other systems within the ecosystem. And then they talk about the design. And so they talk about fungibility, the mobility-oriented account. But I want to go down to here where they talk about Avalanche, because this is what I get excited about. And again, it's pretty deep down. So anyway, to translate the concepts from the design and technology chapters above into working code to validate their potential, we have designed a prototype. This is not an attempt to implement those bridges' grand vision into one shot. Rather, it's a sandbox intended for deployment in a single region under specific conditions. So this prototype consists of 4 components: the Avalanche Layer 1 blockchain, the interchain messaging protocol, the identity service, and the trust gateway. Now you can pause the video right here if you want to see the full breakdown in a map formation, which is on the screen right now. But effectively, they said for this prototype, we selected Avalanche as Mon's foundation layer. Avalanche features high-speed, low-latency consensus and a multi-chain architecture of purpose-built chains. Its primary public chains include the C chain for EVM compatibility smart contracts, the P chain for staking and validator management, and the X chain for asset creation and transfers. Further, it's possible to deploy custom layer 1s called subnets, which can be configured either as public or private to build an optimal layer 1 tailored to the desired service. All EVM-based Avalanche layer 1s, including the public C chain and any custom EVM layer 1s, can be connected via Avalanche's interchain messaging or ICM system, which uses the teleporter contracts and the warp pre-compile to enable secure low-latency cross-chain transfers of token and data, facilitating integrated application design. Toyota Blockchain Labs continued, saying, "We chose Avalanche because its design centered on multiple layer 1s, formerly known as subnets. Its fast finality and its native ICM align with the Mon philosophy of building locally and collaborating globally." In the prototype, Toyota Blockchain Labs assumes that there are 4 layer 1 style subnets on Avalanche, each with a specific code. One is layer 1A security token network. Layer 2 is the mobility asset rights management, or MON. Layer 1C is utility network, and layer 1D is a stablecoin network. These are illustrative. Depending on the use case, functions can be consolidated or further subdivided. Avalanche's flexible architecture can support such complex topologies. And by the way, this is probably the most well-written explanation of why these private layer 1s that can be built on top of a public layer 1 are so critical. Like, we hear a little bit about this in Internet Computer Protocol ecosystem with what they call Utopia, which is effectively an internet computer that you create on top of the internet computer. So it's like a private network on the public network or something like that. And so, but this is clearly explaining how you can tie everything in from all these different subcategories of functionality to bring the whole ecosystem together. To me, this is the clearest explanation of that I've seen so far. And this is from one of the largest automakers in the world. And so, yeah, I mean, this is pretty amazing how they're utilizing Avalanche to create their own chain that can source and the information that they're needing from all these different areas, on-chain and off-chain, to bring it together to create this effectively, this whole ecosystem for this, for mobility. Groundbreaking. And by the way, nobody's talking about this in crypto. Not one influencer is talking about the largest car maker, potentially in the world, testing and utilizing Avalanche blockchain. And so I would definitely recommend going and reading through that report. Again, the report is called, let's go to the top, Orchestrating Trust into Mobility Ecosystems. And it was from August of 2025. But by the way, guys, that's not it. There's more. Wyoming's Frontier stablecoin is debuting on Ethereum, Solana, and Avalanche. Now, as we've covered previously, Wyoming went through a stablecoin like contest a few years ago to find the best blockchains for usage of this stablecoin. And while many ecosystems, including Cardano and including XRP, went into try to become the blockchain of choice, they were not chosen, either of them. And you know, why not? Well, again, if you look at the programmability, the usability, the freeze and seize capabilities, the ability to create your own private network within the public ecosystem's architecture, guys, this is not available on every chain. And there's a lot of chains that have been built on a puff of air. And now that we're exiting the bull market of 2025, right, in the bull cycle, the halving cycle, we're going into the second half of the halving cycle until our next one in 2028. It is now time that we look for the real projects that have real usage, and not just one partner, not just one collaboration, but as I'm showing you, multiple. You have Wall Street titan Anthony Scaramucci putting his fund on Avalanche. We have Toyota testing mobility access, utilizing blockchain on Avalanche. You have Wyoming launching a stable coin on Avalanche. And by the way, that's not it. Japan's yen-backed stablecoin gets regulatory green light and is set to launch on Avalanche, Polygon, and also Ethereum. These are going to be the winning blockchains because they are going to have the most usage. They are going to have the most real-world assets. They are going to have the most DeFi. That's where the world is moving. And the blockchains that are not onboarding right now at the end of the bull market, what do you think they're going to be doing in the bear market? Much of the same nothing, right? And so in my view, I have not had really anything negative to say about Avalanche since it launched. I don't think anybody can find one video with me saying anything bad about Avalanche because they've just been kind of building and operating, right? Kind of like just doing it. Some people paid attention, some people didn't. Some people made money on it, some people didn't. Some people bought the coin, some people didn't. But in my view, based on what we just covered, Avalanche is very investable, but not yet. Not yet. Because we don't know where we are in the cycle just yet. Personally, I do think that we're at the end of the cycle. I mean, this is the 1 year chart. This looks like bull market, bear market, right? That's what it looks like on the screen. If we zoom it out a little bit more, you can see that, well, let's pull it back to 2021. You can see that it basically kept going up from July all the way into December and then started to come down in 2021. Well, now this was July and we've basically been in the green since. So there is a possibility that we're going to follow the previous cycle and we see this downtrend in the middle of 2021 and then the second half of 2021 we go higher. That's possible. Personally, I don't know that we're necessarily going to see this. I think that a lot of the focus this cycle has been on with Wall Street and has been concentrated in some of these very large cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that's pretty much it. And they've been focused also on these Bitcoin and Ethereum treasury companies. We've seen DeFi Development Corporation, SharpLink, BitMine Immersion Technologies, BTCS. They've all been pumping, but not really based on the crypto cycle. They're pumping based on this new thesis to buy crypto and wrap it in a stock, right? But that narrative's starting to shift also. Now there is part of it that's like, well, maybe the money's going to shift into Avalanche and some of these layer twos and Ethereum adjacent chains, but I just think that this cycle is different than previous cycles in terms of previous cycle it was retail. The cycle before that um, it was like speculation. The cycle before that it was just tech and nerd geeky guys that were buying into these cryptos. This cycle it was all about Wall Street, and Wall Street is not really focused on these. I definitely think they're testing. I mean, it's obvious they're testing. I mean, Avalanche is putting it on. Wall Street is utilizing Avalanche for tokenization. But in my view, the tokenization piece, like what Anthony Scaramucci is doing, what we're seeing with real world assets, this is way more sustainable as a business model for these chains than like becoming an Ethereum treasury company or a digital asset treasury company like MicroStrategy. Because all those companies do is buy the coin, right? They're not even reinvesting in the ecosystems. They're just buying the coin. Now, maybe in the future they're going to do that. But I like to look at the fundamentals so that when we are in a bear market, we can see which chains are being used, which chains are being integrated or have already been integrated, because it doesn't matter where the price of Avalanche goes if they're tokenizing money market funds or other type of funds on chain. These are going to like these have it has nothing to do with the price. It just has to do with the network that's underlying, and what is monitoring and showing ownership and all of that. So if we go into a bear market, like this is still bullish. I'm not saying it's bearish. I'm just saying I don't know necessarily that this is going to push the price up. But if we go into a bear market, all of these things that we just covered are extremely bullish for this coin. I mean, even in a bull market, it's bullish, but we don't know if the price is going much, much higher or the cycle is over effectively. But if the cycle is over, even temporarily, this could be a huge buy opportunity. I mean, let's look at the stats on the Avalanche network. 50 million total addresses, 125 million transactions in just the last 7 days. 123 million transactions in 7 days. Maximum transactions per second is 2,000. That was over the last 7 days. That's the maximum. So that's kind of a little bit lower than Solana and a little bit lower than Internet Computer, but kind of in line with that ability. Now, maybe I'd like to see a little bit more. Yeah, you can see a lot more usage here in transactions per second. And this could be an indicator. You see right here, like these big pumps right here. This could be an indicator that they're starting to tokenize on chain. Possibly, maybe not. But these spikes are kind of interesting. And maybe this is an indicator that we're about to start moving higher in price-wise. But maybe not, I don't know. This is really more of a technical video than it is a price comparison video. But I mean, we could definitely talk about price as well. So if we look at active addresses, this is only down because it's today and the day's not over. But you can clearly see that over the last 3 months, it's been stagnant. Let's see the last 1 year total active addresses. Yeah, you can see a nice steady increase since even the beginning of 2025. So when most of crypto was kind of going down in usage because the price of all of crypto started to kind of fall at the beginning of 2025 after the Solana meme coin fiasco, look at what happened. Avalanche was moving higher in terms of active addresses. And so people were using Avalanche more. This could also be indicator of onboarding of institutions because again, it's not just a big pump. Obviously, this is a big pump right here, but if you remove these big pumps, it looks like for the most part of the year, we've been now steadily sustaining these higher numbers of active addresses on the network compared to last year, or even earlier in the year, like February, January, it looks like 120 to 150,000 daily active addresses. And now we're in the 500,000 daily active addresses. That is pretty good numbers, if you ask me. And by the way, the numbers that I was showing you before for active addresses, that was specifically for DeFi. These numbers that I'm showing you now are for the entire Avalanche ecosystem. You can see smart contracts. Let's look at the last 1 year. This says cumulative sum of amount of smart contracts deployed per day, cumulative. So you can see in December, when the markets were peaking out, it was about 14, 15 million contracts. And now we're sitting at about 42 million contracts. And so again, while pretty much the whole crypto market outside of Bitcoin has underperformed most of 2025, Avalanche, I mean, let's look at the price of Avalanche in the last year. Yeah, massive drawdown, right? So even the price is not matching the statistics. and the metrics of the network increasing. I mean, we went over DeFi increasing all year. Now we just went over active addresses increasing all year and sustaining the increase. Maximum transactions per second increase, very high number. Number of smart contracts, again, increase and sustained increase. These are good metrics if you look at them and don't really look at the price, right? But then you go look at the price and you're like, wait, this doesn't make sense. Why are the metrics higher and sustaining, showing more usage, so probably showing more integrations and collaborations, like some of these things that we showed you, Toyota, Anthony Scaramucci, the stablecoin projects. But meanwhile, I mean, even transaction count from the beginning of the year, transactions were in the $1 or $2 million, 1 or 2 million transaction range, and now they're in the 10 to 20 million transactions per day. So, I mean, to me, it looks very obvious that the network of Avalanche is being used more this year, regardless of where the price activity is. This is a very bullish sign and a bullish signal. And again, at some point, everything's going to come back to the fundamentals. And the fundamentals right here on these charts over the last year, I mean, everything has been increasing, but the price has not. And the interest in Avalanche has not, at least from a retail perspective, and really even from a Wall Street perspective, because they're not utilizing Avalanche in these funds or in these ETFs or anything like that, which is also probably a good thing, because pretty much everything that Wall Street gets their hands on, they end up ruining it for the retail investors, right? And so the fact that although they're tokenizing on Avalanche, they're not necessarily holding and buying and using debt to acquire more Avalanche. This could be a very good thing, because at some point the market will turn back to fundamentals. I don't know whether it's now, in 5 months, in a bear market, or when, but the market will turn to fundamentals. And the fundamentals will tell me, where should I invest? And so everything that we just covered, these are the things that I'm looking for. Now let's talk a little bit about dilution and token unlocks, because this is very important to understand. Is this an investable asset? Now, if we look here, the price and the market cap are based on the circulating supply. But if you see, the circulating supply right now is about 422 million AVAX. The total supply is 457 million AVAX. It's not a big difference. But if you see here, the maximum supply is 700, which is about 40%-ish more than the total supply that we're at right now. And so where will these other coins come from? Well, we can see here on unlocked is 33 million coins are locked, right? And so these are locked. They can't be sold today and are restricted programmatically. These are usually insiders and stuff like that, but this is a very small percentage. But then we see untracked. 50% of the coins are unaccounted for in the token unlock schedule. This could be due to factors like unminted tokens or methodological differences. And so I'm not doing a full deep dive on the tokenomics, because it doesn't really matter for this video. This video is really more about the Avalanche ecosystem, what they're doing, what they're collaborating, who they're onboarding, and is it investable? I mean, Avalanche clearly has, a very high market cap as is. Avalanche is clearly in the top 10, as I just showed you, in terms of DeFi protocols. Avalanche clearly has the eyes of not only large corporations, global corporations, but also governments that are deploying stable coins, and also Wall Street insiders who are utilizing the new technologies to make their businesses more effective and efficient. And so, is it investable? I think that's really up to your thesis and strategy of the markets. Again, this is what we talk about on this channel on a regular basis. I try to give you guys good information so that you can make good investment decisions based on your own research and your own opinions on where the market is, where the market's going. Personally, I do think that Avalanche is investable. Whether that means at this time or at some point in the future, that's really up to you. I personally am waiting to kind of see what goes on in the market. There's a lot of people that are very bullish at the end of 2025 that we're going to go much, much higher, and we may. But I'm really looking for the pullback or the shift in the markets overall back to fundamentals. And what do I mean by back to fundamentals? Well, some of these stats that we just showed you in the video are the fundamentals of the network. And there's a lot of other ecosystems, some that we've talked about in this video, some that we haven't. that just don't have it. I mean, XRP has basically no DeFi on it. And so should XRP have a multiples in terms of market cap valuation to Avalanche? Probably not, but currently it does. And so if we do go back to fundamentals in the market and not just hype and what, people are pumping, I think that we're going to see Avalanche increase substantially in price, but we may need a pullback first because the whole market needs to pull back, especially those overvalued coins, for the undervalued coins to then go and take some of that liquidity and get pumped back up. And so I don't know when we're going to see that or if we're going to see that, but I do know at some point we are going to be in a bear market. If we're not already in a bear market, I mean, just based on the last year. Last year we were doing really well. This year we have just been sideways trading in Avalanche. Does that mean we're due for a pump, or does that mean we're due for a dump and then a pump? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. Don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss a new video, and I'll see you on the next video. Crypto on.